Did we overrate Sean McVay? Every year after the Super Bowl, there's a huge question created because of the result of the game. Last year, when Nick Foles, a relatively unremarkable quarterback, took down Tom Brady, one of the best to ever play, it brought into question how important is elite quarterback play when it comes to winning a championship. This year, when the league's hottest offense and most sought-after offensive mind shows up at the Super Bowl and puts up 3 points, it brings a lot of things into question. How important is offensive play? Is the old saying true? Does defense win championships and offense is just a dressing on top of that? And the big question, did we overrate Sean McVay? In a season defined by offensive explosion, it's bizarrely fitting that in a game for all the marbles where two of the most sought-after minds of football are roaming the sidelines for each team, it was an absolute snorefest. That the game wasn't defined by the headlining offensive players like Todd Gurley and Jared Goff and Tom Brady, but defined by defensive plays made by guys you barely heard of before the game. Now, while there are a lot of ways to dish out the blame pie for what happened to be a clunker of a Super Bowl, you can blame it on Jared Goff. You can blame it on Todd Gurley. You can blame it on Sean McVay not using Todd Gurley. But ultimately, the one who receives the most hype will always receive the most blame. And on the Rams, Jared Goff doesn't receive the most hype. Todd Gurley doesn't receive the most hype. Sean McVay receives the most hype. And ultimately, he's going to receive the bulk of the blame. And if you don't believe me that Sean McVay has received a ton of hype, I believe the most hype we've seen a coach get in like 10, 15 years, then all you need to do is look at this year's coaching hire to show how much hype he has, especially among front office members in the NFL. When there were 8 head coaching opportunities available, 3 of those 8, almost half, had a connection to Sean McVay. A connection to Sean McVay was so important that it trumped experience in many cases. When you look at Zach Taylor, who was a quarterback coach for the Rams and is now the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. A connection to Sean McVay was so important that just merely being his friend warranted a mention on the official press release for Cliff Kingsbury. And this year, for whatever reason, the simple mention of Sean McVay in your resume would almost be a guarantee for you to at least get an interview. Hell, I believe Hugh Jackson would have a head coaching job right now if he just walked past Sean McVay a couple of times. Because that's how important the connection was, because everybody wants whatever Sean McVay got. Part of Sean McVay's hype is due to the fact that offenses exploded this year with new concepts, with new ideology, and the poster boy in the face of it all was chosen to be 32-year-old, young, trendy Sean McVay. And why not? He went 11-5 his first year, turned Jared Goff from a bum to a Pro Bowler, and now he's 13-3 in his second year. Why shouldn't he be the face of it? He's a much more attractive face than Andy Reid, who truly is the catalyst for the offensive explosion, but that's a video for another day. But why was Sean McVay given so much credit for an offensive explosion that happened league-wide? Well, there are a number of factors that are important. Now, the first factor is he's the coach of the Los Angeles Rams. Not the St. Louis Rams, the Los Angeles Rams, which comes with its benefits and which comes with its negative sides as well. One of the benefits of being the coach of the Los Angeles Rams is that whatever you do is going to echo louder than in most other markets outside of New York. I know when I say that, some people think, well, the Chargers slid under the radar for most of the season. They're in LA too. Well, here's the difference between the Chargers and the Rams. The Rams actually play in LA. They play at the Memorial Coliseum. They have a history with that franchise in LA. The Chargers are LA by name only, but they play in Carson, which is actually like an hour and a half away from downtown LA. And they play in an MLS soccer stadium occupied by the LA Galaxy, which, no slight to them, I'm pretty sure, MLS is a fun thing to watch. And in LA, it's a city fueled by prestige, history, and clout. And the Rams have all the clout, which makes them a bigger deal in that city. So that being said, inevitably, whatever Sean McVay did in Los Angeles was always going to be put over a megaphone and made louder than it was. Now, the fact that he did something really good in Los Angeles made that hype go to almost a fever pitch. The second fact, Sean McVay and these Los Angeles Rams are just a much more interesting story for people to write about, for people to talk about, and for people to cover than any other team in the league that has similar success. When you look at the Rams and you look at the Chiefs, they're two teams that had explosive offenses this year. The Chiefs actually had a more explosive offense. They had the MVP of the league. But more people talked about the Rams because, one, Sean McVay's 32 years old. He's fresh. He's new. It's something we've never seen somebody that young be this good at coaching already in his second year. And that's a fun story to write about. You got Todd Gurley, who's one of the most exciting running backs in football. You got Jared Goff, who's like this awkward, gangly dude who was terrible under Jeff Fisher, but somehow has turned it around with Sean McVay and now looks like a top 10 NFL quarterback in some people's eyes. You have this defense that was put together by trades with all these big names. You got Ndamukong Suh, Marcus Peters, Akeem Talib. You have a plethora of well-known and interesting characters to dive into when you look at the Los Angeles Rams. Then when you turn it around, look who the story probably should be about from a football perspective is the Chiefs. They're not as interesting. Andy Reid, been in the NFL forever, for over a decade. Patrick Mahomes, very good player, very interesting player to watch about. Personality off the field, I've never heard a fun Patrick Mahomes quote, but you're more than welcome to enlighten me in the comment section down below. And that's kind of it. They didn't do anything flashy in the offseason. They just got rid of Alex Smith, kept the same team, and got really good at football. And that's why a bulk of this offensive explosion credit ended up going to Sean McVay, whether he deserves it or not. Not saying he's not a great offensive mind, but I think he's getting credit for an entire movement across the league. But before we dive deeper into the Sean McVay hype, let's actually take a step back and look how Sean McVay got the job in the first place. Now, prior to being hired as the Rams head coach, Sean McVay actually spent a ton of time underneath John and Jay Gruden, which is kind of ironic because the last name Gruden has in the last year became a synonym for stale, outdated offensive philosophies. But somehow they gave birth to the brainchild of an offensive revolution in the NFL. But when you look at Sean McVay's story, it starts with the improved play of what was once thought as a, at best, average, mediocre quarterback and his improved play. And of course, I'm talking about what Sean McVay did with Kirk Cousins as the offensive coordinator in Washington over a 3-year span. So while Sean McVay is able to get Kirk Cousins to improve his play, there's a team that's moving to Los Angeles that just drafted a #1 overall pick that just fired Jeff Fisher, that decides to put their #1 overall pick in the game, and they see disastrous results from the start as Jared Goff got put in his first year, and he just flat out never looked good in his rookie year. He looked overwhelmed. He looked like he was struggling. He looked like a guy who wasn't going to be worth his #1 pick overall status. And what made it worse was that same year, Carson Wentz looked really good, who was a #2 overall pick. But while there were a lot of rumors in the offseason about who Los Angeles should hire, and since they're Los Angeles, the rumors kind of went towards more big ticket names. But what the Rams ended up doing was taking the guy who as an offensive coordinator was able to make Kirk Cousins look good and crossing their fingers and hoping he could do the same for their #1 overall pick, Jared Goff. And boy, did he do that. Turning Jared Goff and the Rams offense from a laughingstock around the league to something that every single front office in the league wanted to emulate. It's truly remarkable what Sean McVay was able to get done on the offensive side of the football when it comes to Jared Goff. And then in this perfect storm of things, in the city of angels, there was an offensive explosion, partly due to the league changing its rules and getting less physical, especially at the quarterback position. Also partly due into an introduction and embracing league-wide of college-style air raid concepts, which Sean McVay and Andy Reid were deemed the catalyst of. Now that we know how we got here, the question still remains. Is he overrated? No. Is he overhyped? Absolutely. There is a difference between overrated and overhyped, because no coach at the age of 32 has had in NFL history such a rapidly expanding and growing coaching tree. I think he has like 4 guys with legitimate connections to him who are head coaches in the NFL right now. And that's not to say that I don't think he's deserving. I don't think that's the truth at all. I think he is a great offensive mind. I think there is a lot to be said about guys who work under him in his offensive system. But when a guy has only been a head coach for 2 years, and it seems that his name on a resume holds more weight than Andy Reid's name on a resume, holds more weight than Sean Payton's name on a resume, holds more weight than Bill freaking Belichick's name on a resume. I think we've jumped the shark at this point with the hype. When NFL teams try to follow the hot trend, sometimes it gets stupid. While front office members were feeling high and mighty and they feeling good about their Sean McVay-based hires as they watch the Sean McVay-led LA Rams go into the Super Bowl, it was kind of fitting that in Super Bowl 53, at the game's biggest stage, for lack of a better word, Sean McVay got exposed by the greatest head coach of all time. The man who was looked at as some kind of offensive prophet was completely figured out by Bill Belichick. It was Bill Belichick reminding Sean McVay who the real genius is in the NFL. It was the first time in the 2 years that Sean McVay's been the head coach of the Rams that he looked like a second-year head coach. And it just happened to be on the game's biggest stage. Not to say that he can't recover from this. I think he can. But I also think we have to acknowledge, if you're a Rams fan, as each year goes on, this is going to get much harder. Jared Goff's going to be due up for a big contract soon. You're going to lose some of the free agents that you signed to those one-year deals or that you traded assets in the future for that were in their last year or two in their deal. What the Rams are going to face next season and the seasons beyond are the inevitable consequences to the all-in method they took last offseason, which means the Rams will have less talent, not enough assets to replace said talent, and not enough cap flexibility to retain talent. Put that all together, and suddenly the future of the Rams starts to look dark. But that's my thoughts on Sean McVay. I would love to hear your thoughts on Sean McVay. Am I going overboard for the most part? Are the Rams going to be fine? Is Sean McVay deserving of everything that happened this offseason connected to his name? Or do you think I'm right? Let me know in the comment section down below. Again, guys, I want to thank you for watching. Keep hitting that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Let me know how you feel in the comment section down below. Again, guys, thank you for watching. My name's Quincy Carrier. Have a good night.